During the summer of 1869, the great explorer, writer, and patron saint of America's national parks, John Muir, he journeyed into the Sierra Nevada mountain range for the very first time in his life. And we are fortunate enough today to have his journal and catch glimpses through his writings of all of the bizarre and also beautiful things that he experienced on this great adventure that summer. Well, about halfway through the summer, he started to grapple with one of life's greatest questions, one of the greatest philosophical questions of all time. Why, oh why, does poison ivy exist? Why would a good and loving creator allow innocent people to suffer from poison ivy? This is a question that I've also wrestled with on numerous occasions. I am one of those people that can just look at a patch of poison ivy or poison oak from a mile away and still somehow manage to be covered in a rash the following morning. I don't get it. Why in the world did God create such a sinister plant to begin with, when all it does is bring misery to so many of us human beings? The same question, of course, could be asked of the Wisconsin state bird, the mosquito. Why does the stupid mosquito exist to begin with? What was going on in God's brain when he decided to make such a demonic insect? Of what benefit are these little blood-sucking demons to us, right? Well, John Muir, as he thought about all of these little pesky nuisances of the creation, poison ivy, mosquito, and a lot of other things, and he wondered why they were allowed to exist. Why did God create them? He came to this beautiful and revolutionary conclusion. Here's what he said. Like most other things not apparently useful to man, poison ivy has few friends. And the blind question, why was it made, goes on and on with never a guess that, first of all, it might have been made for itself. Poison ivy was made for itself, not for us. The mosquito was made for itself, not for us. The same is true of countless other things. The problem isn't with the existence of these types of things within the creation. The problem is with the lens through which we look as human beings at their existence, at the existence of things like poison ivy and mosquitoes. For we human beings seem to be the only creatures in the entire known universe who evaluate the existence of other natural things based exclusively on their value to us and the pleasure and comfort that we can derive from them. When the modern person looks at Mother Earth, our planet, they see nothing much more than a litany of resources to be consumed. And we all, whether we like it or not, we relate to our planet as if she exists exclusively for our own comfort and pleasure and material well-being. This warped view of reality is what happens when we as a society bow the knee to mammon, to money, more than we do to that which is truly, really sacred. When we make the pursuit of wealth and luxury our new religion, our path to enlightenment, our vehicle of salvation. When we make rich people into saints, simply because they're rich. My friends, as long as human beings look out over Mother Earth's vast, beautiful meadows and see nothing more than good spots to plaster over with concrete for new suburbs and new outlet malls, and not as ecosystems that should be allowed to exist in their own right. And as long as we human beings look at things like cows and pigs and chickens and kale and cucumbers and tomatoes and see nothing more than items to be sold for a profit, and objects to be consumed for gluttonous pleasure, and not as things that should be allowed to exist in their own right first and foremost. And as long as we human beings view the pristine beaches of our planet as great places to construct playgrounds that are profitable for the rich, and as ideal locations to sip on some pina coladas, and not as places that should remain untarnished, that should exist for themselves first and foremost in their own right, then all of our so-called attempts to heal our planet, and all of our activism, it will fail. It will fail. Thomas Aquinas, who perhaps was more influential than any other person on the entire Western world, he said this nearly 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago. That the human being is not the center of the universe. The greatest thing in the universe isn't the human being, he said. It is the universe itself. The greatest thing in the universe is the whole universe, with all of its complexity and interconnectedness, of which, yes, we are part of it. The universe itself is the greatest thing. A lesson that the greedy businessman of today and also the green activist of today both fail to understand. What the green activist of today fails to realize is that the same arrogance that drives the greedy businessman to consume and to pollute Mother Earth for a profit is the same arrogance that leads the activist to believe that they can heal Mother Earth and be her savior. Both people believe that Mother Earth revolves around them, their actions, and what they can make of her. Newsflash, Mother Earth doesn't need any of us to play savior for her. She doesn't need any of us to heal her. She can and she will do that all on her own by herself. She's quite good at it, actually. The only thing we need to do is stop getting in her way. And if we fail to get out of her way, well, eventually she'll find a way to get us out of her way for us. And no amount of mammon stacked high in our pockets will ever be able to save us when that time comes. My friends, the question isn't, will Mother Earth ever be healed? The question during this season of life is, will we human beings be around to see it when it happens? And we Episcopalians, we pat ourselves on the back. We like to think that we are somehow different, more enlightened because we're progressive. We watch CNN and stuff, and documentaries about Greta Thunberg, and we don't watch the 700 Club as much as other Christians do. But let's not kid ourselves. We are no different. One example, we've been using this exact line, this fragile earth, our island home, in our prayer books for nearly 50 years now. What? What exactly is so fragile about this planet, our so-called island home? She has survived the Ice Age and meteor strikes, has she not? Entire civilizations have come and gone. She's still around. She has birthed and promoted the evolution of every species on this planet. She has outlived the dinosaurs, and she will outlive us if we're so hell-bent on going the way of the dinosaurs. There's nothing about our planet that is fragile whatsoever. It's only our arrogance that leads us to believe that she's so fragile that without us, without our greatness, without our protection, without our prayers, without our science, without our activism, she will not manage. She'll just disintegrate. It's foolishness on our part. We are the fragile ones. And it's only our fragile insecurity that leads us to believe that she is our damsel in distress, and we are her knight in shining armor. My friends, Mother Earth does not need our pity. or our agendas, or our policies, or our science, or our activism, as much as she needs our reverence. And she doesn't even need that even, which is all the more reason for us to revere her. St. Paul tells us this morning that those who desire to be rich, those who clamor after a life of luxury, they'll only end up piercing themselves through with many pains. And what is our society today if it's not a society that is pierced through and through with many pains? Paul's imagery here is that of self-crucifixion, of nailing oneself to the cross. Another way of saying what he said is that those who kneel at Mammon's altar are committing spiritual and emotional suicide. They are deadening their hearts, they are numbing their minds, they are extinguishing that youthful passion for adventure that is the driving force of the human soul. The problem with the love of money, not necessarily the having of money, the attachment to money, the love, the lusting after money, is that it slowly grooms us to believe that the whole world revolves around us and our comfort. It brings us to a place where we're willing to sacrifice everything, Mother Earth, other people, entire ecosystems, so that we can create for ourselves lives of greater convenience and ease. We end up treating the whole planet just as the rich man treated Lazarus in our reading for today. The rich man's relationship with his wealth, it warped him so badly in this life that even in the afterlife, he still saw Lazarus as nothing more than someone who was there to do his bidding, for his pleasure. Lazarus exists, like poison ivy, mosquitoes, for himself, not for any rich man. Mother Earth exists for herself, not for any rich man. The problem with our modern infatuation with wealth is that it's put us completely out of rhythm with the natural rhythms of our planet, out of step with her. Instead of absorbing the rays of the sun, large portions of our paychecks go toward paying for artificial lighting in our houses. Many of us put ourselves into large amounts of debt only to be graded by a sedentary career after we graduate from college or grad school. We're willing to sacrifice our bodies and our physical health on Mammon's altar, and in return this false god gives us what? Nicer houses, fancier cars. Instead of letting our bodies adjust to temperatures of the seasons, we instead adjust the thermostat in our houses so that we can be comfortable year-round. Not really thinking about how much energy we're actually consuming, how much Mother Earth we're actually consuming in the process. We spend more time today living vicariously through characters on a screen than we do living adventurously in our own skin. Instead of eating the fresh food, which the land around us would naturally produce, we buy food instead that has been shipped from the other side of the country, other side of the world in many cases even. I love bananas as much as the next person. But as we're consuming one, we rarely think about how much carbon dioxide was pumped into the air just to get one into our mouths. Instead of sitting down for meals with family members and friends and having conversations with, real people in a real space, we mindlessly shovel food into our mouths as we text people who are not in the room, all the while ignoring those who actually are in the room. Ever since the dawn of humankind, human conversations have been mediated through face-to-face interactions around things like campfires and dinner tables. But now we've entered into the age where human interaction is being mediated almost exclusively by Mark Zuckerberg and the brainchild of Steve Jobs. Reality for us is becoming more pixelated than real, more de-incarnate than incarnate. And we all have been indoctrinated into thinking that this is progress. Progress. Our love of money and our lusting after the technological and the material conveniences and comforts our money can buy, it is polluting our earth, it is polluting our bodies, and it's pulling us even further and further away from reality as everybody else who existed before us knew it. Not progress. If anything, it's de-evolution. We have lost sight of what it means to lead a genuine human existence on our planet. We've totally lost our grip on the life that really is life, as St. Paul says this morning. My friends, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And we in the church have to uproot it from within ourselves. For we human beings were never meant to bow the knee to mammon, to become its servant. We were made to exist for ourselves, not for mammon. For the sake of our children, for the sake of our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, for the sake of all other species on this planet, we must uproot this evil. We must resist. But as we think about how we can resist what are now the normative cultural patterns and societal norms, right? Trying to figure out where to begin, it can feel very, very overwhelming. Because we are immersed everywhere we go in mammon worship. Well, thankfully, St. Paul gives us a perfect starting place this morning. It will properly orient all of us. And we would all do well to heed the advice that he gave to a young man named Timothy nearly 2,000 years ago. We can resist mammon's curses. We can recover a genuine human existence again. We can take hold of the life that really is life if we focus on two very simple things that started off our reading to Timothy. Paul said that there will be great gain for the person who combines godliness with contentment. Godliness, a church word that we hear a lot, don't often know how to define it. It simply means this: knowing how to revere those things that are really worthy of reverence. Learning how to revere that which is sacred. The godly person is someone who knows how to show proper respect to God, Mother Earth, other species, other people. These good gifts that God has created, that we're surrounded by. The godly person, in other words, is a mindful person. The godly person loves the whole creation as if it were sacred to her, because it is. And the godly person has fallen in love with this life, fallen in love with the whole creation. And because of this, she spends more time thanking God for all of the beauty that surrounds her, all of the things that God has given her, more so than she does obsessing about those things that she doesn't have. The obsessive greed, it stops. The clamoring after more and more, it stops. The mindless consumption of that which is sacred, it stops. For she is content. When you wake up to your communion with the whole universe, when you wake up to just how interconnected you are to every other species, every mountain, every lake, every tree, when you wake up to the vast beauty of Mother Earth and all of her creatures, when you wake up to your union with the divine, what more could you ever possibly need? At that point, nothing is worthy of consumption.